This is Lauren.
This is Trey.
And this
is the Partnership Podcast.
Last week, we talked about casual dating and casual sex. It kind of took a negative tone. This week, I was really interested in talking about what questions, what tools, what resources casual daters can use to make sure everyone feels safe, feels seen, feels protected, the opposite of taken advantage or neglected or used. Enjoy.
Baby, welcome to the world's cutest and shortest podcast episode.
Okay, so continuing from what we were saying last week, casual sex, because we were talking about kind of the dating, casual sex, almost the downsides of like, he's saying what he needs to say to get me into bed, he only wants sex, and, let's flip it. She's doing, she's blah, blah, blah. Okay, these are the negatives. When we're navigating this space, as far as being single, as far as going out and dating, as far as being on the apps, dating multiple people, what are some tools that our single friends can use if their goal is to take care of themselves and then take care of the people that they are seeing, no matter how intimate or casual, but to not go down that route of I'm going to be viewed as a scumbag, or I'm going to treat somebody else poorly so I can get what I want.
Yeah. Way to throw a great question at me. Okay, let's see if I can do this succinctly. Number one, what I thought of is to get clear on what you want or what you're looking for. It's interesting because that's a question on most of the apps, isn't it? What are you looking for?
Sure.
I think it's a normal first date question. I think it's a normal messaging in the apps question. I think it's a normal DM sliding into the DMs question. What are you looking for?
Common, yeah.
But isn't it interesting that before we answer that question, we have to know? So I would say step one to our podcast audience, get clear on what you want. Humans in female bodies, if you also want just a more sexual experience, you just want to have more casual sexual encounters, write that down, put it somewhere so that you can begin to create new neural pathways in your body. There is no shame in wanting to expand your sexual repertoire, to taste what's out there. There is no shame at all in that, as long as you are practicing safer sex practices. So, number one, get clear on what you want. Number two, start practicing maybe with your friends, maybe with family, people who are close in your circle, how you are going to make it clear to another what you're looking for. Because I think one of the things that we forget is that when we are in conversation with someone, sometimes we feel that we're being perfectly clear, but to another human being, we are not. And so I do think it is fascinating. I was talking with someone just yesterday, just a friend, and we were talking about a scenario they were in and their experience of the scenario. And I said, is there a world in which your truth is true, but also that other human who you believe caused you pain was not intending that? That they meant something else, that their truth was something else. And this friend was like, Lauren, yeah, there's a world in which, and actually, I've told this person several times, you keep hurting me. And they kept saying, I think you think really badly of me, right? I am not saying that folks are not out there doing harmful things, but I think we need to start to practice with others. Hey, this is what I'm thinking of telling this date that I'm about to go on. Does this sound clear? Does this make it clear of what I am looking for? So practice with others. So 2. 3, diversify your portfolio. This is becoming my favorite catchphrase. Stop putting all your eggs in one basket. What does your friend group look like? Where are you getting your human needs for certainty, uncertainty, significance, love and connection, growth and contribution met? Because if you are looking to get your human need for uncertainty met in these casual fucks that you have, you are gonna hurt other people. If you love the cat and mouse game, if you love the chase, you are going to subconsciously make these people into that.
How do you not then? If you love the cat and mouse game, if you love the chase, how do you not then?
How do you not
hurt another person? Is it clear? Is it clear communication up front?
I'm going to stand on my values. This is an opinion. Can I share an opinion?
Yeah.
The cat and mouse game to me implies levels of uncertainty, levels of poor communication, levels of will they, won't they, levels of toying. Like if you think of a mouse, right? If you think of playing with, we have two babies, we have a kitty that our cat adopted. It's wild, okay? But when you're playing with baby kitty and you have the toy, right? Think of what you're doing. That, in my mind, we are playing with someone when I hear the cat and mouse game. So
Okay,
I don't like
So
cat
there's
and
a
mouse
difference
game.
between cat and mouse and like seduction.
Seduction could be amazing if one is clear on date, on app. I am looking for juicy casual sex partners. I love the thrill of the seduction. I love the lead up.
So you're recommending stating all of that, like say up front in your like bio?
I'm recommending getting very clear on what that looks like to you, what casual sex looks like to you. Maybe you could say it from the things that you enjoy, right? I so enjoy, you're my perfect example. I enjoy taking my dates on really great dates first. It is part of the thrill for me. I love sex. I love providing pleasure. I love receiving pleasure. I am not looking in this moment to provide emotional security for someone. I am not seeking a partner and partnership. It would be great to say, I've even heard feedback in the past that it is confusing because I do love dating. I love dating. So I just wanted to get clear on that.
Okay.
I think that's all we can do. I don't think there needs to be some over caution, but I do think I hear that feedback, right? And I love that you brought this to the table of he's just doing this to get into bed with me. Because there's still you tell me, but in what my male-bodied clients tell me is there's still a pressure to get a higher body count.
Okay. Can I share my stuff when I was dating?
Go,
Like
please.
multiple women?
Yeah.
I was instructed that I'm a hetero guy. So it was allow the woman to bring up where is this going, and until then continue to date this woman well. So you create atmospheres of fun and play and invitations for sex. Where both people feel secure in doing so. And then when it's time to have conversations of, hey, where's this going? Or, hey, kind of where are we at? Then it's my job to actually be in my truth. And that is the elixir for me of, oh, this isn't manipulation. This is now a very specific question that's being answered. And then it's my job to be like, well, I would love to keep it the way it is, continue to date each other, see each other once a month, once every 2 weeks, once a week. If I'm asked a direct question of, hey, are you seeing other people? I need to give a direct answer of yes,
Right.
if I am. And I just want to date you exclusively, then I need to actually stand within myself and say, that's not what I want at this time.
Knowing what you know now. Because it's always, in my world, I'm in an education world, right? It's always okay to say I used to believe and then I learned and now I think.
Yeah.
Would you change knowing what you know now, right? You've read Polysecure by Jessica Fern, right? You are more tooled now.
Yeah.
Would you go back and pepper in anything else? Because again, you and I both believe that anybody's teachings are just opinions, right? They are the culmination of their lived experience and their techniques that they think are great. Now, would you go back and can you poke any fallacies in it? Or could you be like, I could also see this angle?
Going back, I would be more specific.
Yeah.
Where I would actually be more, I don't know about blunt is the word, but I'd be more specific and maybe bring it up sooner.
Because that
Also, it can be an giving too much information too early can also have a backfiring effect.
Agreed. I am so in the same page as you there.
Where it's like, hi, nice to meet you. Let's get appetizers. Let's talk about our sexual history. Let's do all these things. It's too much. And it turns off the
some
other
clients
person.
who are survivors of different forms of sexual assault, right? And they will ask me, should this come up,
Yeah.
right? And trust is earned through trustworthy behavior, provisional trust, all these types of things are the things we discuss. Their right to pleasure, it is the nuanced subject. So I want to make sure in this mini episode, our listeners aren't like so confused. But I think what's really crucial in this juicy conversation we're having, and I want our audience to hear, is that it's okay to have been coached up in one methodology and then to learn something and then go back and go, ooh, what I would have done a tad differently.
Sure.
That there's no shame in that. There's no shame in the way you did things and then going, if I had known, right, I would have done this slightly differently. The only piece I don't like about now with the things that I know is the lack of agency that a woman has to decide whether or not she wants to be involved in that. Right? Because, I
Expand
think,
on that.
So the way you date, and if you dated other women the same way you dated me, I would have at least liked to know, I would have at least liked to had the opportunity to say, you know what, in this season, I haven't studied polyamory that much, go back. I'm not interested in participating in that. I'd like to know if you're dating other people, right? I'd like the opt-in. I love agency and choice. And so that idea of not disclosing, I hear the wisdom in it. I do. And not wanting other women to feel badly if we're dating multiple people. I am so here for that. But I think I align more in the camp of I'm solo poly, or I'm in a season of dating multiple people. If that's not okay with you, that is totally fine.
Great. When would you feel comfortable asking that? Because it is your responsibility to ask, yeah? Or state.
Right? And isn't it interesting? Because assumptions are assumptions.
Yeah.
And
that's good too, where assumptions are assumptions. So the things that we are, because certain things are awkward to talk about, and especially when you're getting to know someone new, and especially when you don't want to stir the pot or you don't want to make someone feel uncomfortable. So sometimes we'll make ourselves smaller. We won't ask the questions that we're really curious about asking. So there is a level of uncomfortableness in that probably needs to be pushed in.
Yeah. And then
or actually asked.
You called me out on just the other day. You said so beautifully, babe. You were like, honey, I mean this in the best way, but you tend to project so much goodness onto other people.
Yeah.
And I think, y'all, if you fall into my camp, be wary, because I would just project levels of emotional intelligence, abilities to communicate, in my olden days, that this person's purely monogamous and that the yada, 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 this is what they want, right? We tend to project so quickly. I mean, there's literally data, y'all, that we fall in love with a projection of a person.
Correct. Where a combination of seeing the best in people and seeing what you want to see in people.
And how they fit into your personal narrative.
Correct.
So again, this is, assumptions are assumptions. So if you're listening to this podcast, there are so many ways to date. There are so many ways to engage in sexual behaviors. And it is okay to assume that you know nothing about the other person's desires.
To ask. Great. Can I shift it?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm a person. I'm on the dating apps. I don't want to date. I want the other person to come over and I want it to be intimate and sexual.
Okay.
And these people exist.
Yeah.
I could share my opinions. I'm not going to do that right now. If it's, hey, do you want to come over to my house to watch a movie? AKA to hook up.
Yeah.
What advice would you give for those people?
Okay. Well, I am that person. I've done that.
You've done that?
Yes.
Just invited somebody over that you've never met in your life to...
I've gone, yes. We all know this, the shirts on the lamps.
That was just went straight over to that person's house, no dinner. Was there a phone call?
He did make me dinner, but that was the hilarious thing gone wrong. And then his roommate came out, and I didn't know he had a roommate, and then the roommate was in the bedroom next to us. And yeah, I know.
I didn't know that. That was just I
just lowered Trey's value of me in his eyes. Literally, did you all see his face? Oh.
Ew. Yeah, okay.
That was literally 2 weeks before I met you, too. I'm not a woman of high standards.
What would you have done differently? What advice do you have for people that it's I straight just want to hook up?
Right.
What advice do you have? And then can you share what you would have done differently in your specific story? I didn't know that was just a straight hookup.
Yeah, and then he canceled the real date. We were supposed to have a real date. Yeah, I mean, it is a textbook of what happens. I wouldn't change anything. Y'all, here's the thing. The funny thing about the sex educator is that was the biggest, most beautiful lesson I could have learned. And what could have gone wrong is if I had gotten mad at him for, I don't know, for something that I assumed he would do. And I think I did get frustrated when he canceled the date. I was confused, right? Why he would cancel the date after I had given him my body, right? In my mind.
Hold on. Did you talk about sexual history beforehand? Did you talk about boundaries beforehand?
No, I'm telling you, y'all, I was bad. Oh, so what would I change before?
Yes. Pardon me. I don't mean to turn this into an interrogation. This is the fastest cast ever.
Ever.
Okay? We're getting off in what? 10 minutes? 12 minutes?
10 minutes. We got this. 12. Yeah. Yeah. No, I would have lots of conversations before. I would have many conversations about, this is why I got into this field, y'all, is that I felt so ill-equipped about sexual history, about most recent testing. I would have a conversation. This person did not pressure me. This person at the end of our dinner gone very badly goes, do you want to go home? I mean,
at the end of dinner?
Yeah. Now, this person
No
assumed,
shit, before intimacy.
Yeah.
Oh, fuck.
We were sitting in the living room, and he was like, do you want to go home? I was horny. AF.
Yeah.
So.
No, I want a nut.
Yeah. But did I get a nut? No. Anyway. I think that sometimes these situations can teach us the most. So I think that's what I'm trying to say, is that no one should feel shameful that they learned a lesson through an encounter, especially that was not dangerous. This was not dangerous at all. And I learned a shit ton about the incompatibility of us as human beings. So I would change the safer sex stuff. I would change
having the conversation.
Yeah, I would have a conversation.
Did you guys wear protection? Great.
Yes. Yeah, and I was on an IUD. But yes, I didn't have deep conversations. I knew I would insist on a condom. But yeah, I think I'd ask so many more questions because we had talked a lot about what he was looking for, what I was looking for. I had projected this entire thing in my mind of who he was. And yeah.
What percentage was actually sexually related of the conversations that you had leading up to actual sex?
90% of the conversation
was sexually related, but like fantasy, or like sexually as far as like in a doctor's office? That's my question. How much was sexually related as far as like
no.
doctor stuff?
No, like stuff that a sex educator would want you to say.
Correct.
No.
Yeah.
90% of it was just sexting.
Sexting, like actual through text?
Look at his face.
Ew.
Look at his face.
Ew. She wanted to do this to me when our first date. She wanted to have so many text conversations. And I was like, no.
I have a style. Now I know from Dr. Petra Zebroff's research that form of initiation is really hot to me. And we do it now.
Uh-huh.
What are you trying to say?
So we had one big date before we actually got into a sexual relationship. But it was I could argue it was 4 dates in one. So the lobby, walking to the restaurant, coming back on the rickshaw. That's probably not the right term for that.
Yeah,
and then going up to your hotel lobby bar, and then the culmination, which is hours of hot hotel first date sex. If you're going to go out there and you're going to fuck a bunch of people, like having sex on the first night, less than 10%, it's going to be really good sex.
Less than 10%.
5-6%.
I work with a lot of folks.
And I've had a lot of one-night stands.
Yeah, I think this is a fascinating conversation.
It's not going to be, it's literally do not bank on it being actually good sex.
No.
Unless you go out, unless you have a good time, unless you bond, unless you laugh, unless you build rapport and security, that's going to add to really good fucking sex.
So it's interesting that you say that, because I tell people all the time that folks will be like, well, how do I know, though, who will be a good sex partner? And I'm like, yeah, I knew from my date where the guy made me dinner that he was not going to be a good sex partner.
I've gone on dates where it's like, oh, this woman is not.
Yeah.
She's not confident in herself. She's not confident in her body, just by her body language, how she walks. This is not going to be good sex.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm kind of trying to think still through your conversation before. I could have done so many things better, y'all, and I hope you understand that it is one of the reasons, that I got into this profession is because I was not tooled, right? I had been in a marriage for a decade, and then I was out on the market, and I did things through trial and error. I was reading a lot of things, but I will say this, that lesson was crucial for me to learn, and I was in this stage of learning where my standards were. I was not interested in that. I was not interested in a man who did this, this, and this. And so it was wonderful because simultaneously, yes, I had this really bad night of a hookup, but it also, I could go back to my pages and pages of journals of what I was looking for. And this man did not align. So it was very easy to let go of, Lauren, cry in the shower, have a cleanse, and then let it go. Let it go. Mm-hmm. And then literally, I met Trey 2 weeks later.
Okay. Recapping, get clear on what you want. Mm-hmm. Don't be afraid to have clinical conversations.
Do not.
Don't be afraid to have boundaried conversations. Feel free to ask the other person, like, hey, what are you looking for? And if it's a vague answer, feel free to read in between the lines or feel free to ask more specifically. And then, make sure and be protected. Mind, body, spirit.
Yeah.
Use protection. Inquire about sexual testing, which is like, dude, if you're going to be weird, that's a big red flag. Where if you're going to be weird about sexual testing, if a man's going to be like, I don't really feel like wearing a condom, get the fuck out of there. That's weird. In almost 2025? We're December of 2024 right now.
Can you imagine if you went on a date and someone was just coughing in your face the whole time? And
No.
you asked them to cover their mouth and they were like, right? That is how we just need to think of. Like, sexually transmitted infections should have no shame, but we also should not just be sharing the germs without the other person's consent and not going to wrap that thing up. That is so silly.
Because like men's penises, they're trying to cough jizz, and
they are.
And we don't know where that seed has been in the quality of the batch.
What I want to wrap up on is, in our field, we talk a lot about creating containers and creating containers to play. If this is something that you would like to work more on, I would love to work with you on developing a way to create containers to play sexually that align with your ethics. It would be so cool if we had a world of embodied, wise, consensually driven humans out there going, hey, do you want to play?
Fuck yeah.
Get
tooled up, maybe our last,
What do you need to play safely sexually?
Get resourced. Get some fucking education would be the last kind of putting the loop together. Fuck
because if I think of the training, the schooling, the mentorship that you did on your own, and I think of then adding on what I knew it was an intrinsic part of you, but what you now know about, you were standing in your agency. But I think you have learned more about how to protect and honor the agency of the other too. And if I could just
now 100%.
Now, if I could pepper that into your coaching, I definitely would. And because it's okay to create temporary containers, temporary vessels to play. This is what our polyamory colleagues have been teaching for a really long time. But it is also important to understand, does this person have their other attachment needs met? It's okay to say that. Like after we close our container tonight or tomorrow morning, do you have people to go back to? What's your friendships like? What's your roommate sitch like? What's your life like?
Can I pause on you? These are advanced conversations.
Yeah.
And if you're having this conversation with someone that may not be this resourced, see if they go to curiosity or see if they go to defensiveness. Notice that. That's going to be a big one for you.
I think let's wrap this up. This was an incredible conversation. Y'all, in the description below the episodes, I'll put kind of the bullet points that we came up with. Just get a shiver.
Yeah, I got pee shivers, yeah.
Oh, I thought it was like because of his own brilliance.
No, I'm getting turned on. I'm getting turned on.
Well, isn't that interesting? Because I think that's what boundaries do. When we have understood the limits of our domain and we have drawn a clear boundary around that says, this is where I want to play. Do you want to come inside? Do you want to play in the third domain?
I do want to come inside. You keep saying wrapped it up, and I'm like, yeah, I'll put a condom on. It's like, who the fuck is this woman? Oh, she wants me to fuck her and then leave?
We do. Play,
Thanks for coming to this episode of the
We play that game
podcast.
a lot. Highly recommend for long-term partners this idea of a casual sex partner who comes and leaves. Haha. I'm wrapping it up. Thanks for coming to this episode of the Partnership Podcast with Lauren and Trey. Please keep in mind, these are our opinions. Our opinions only. You have a right to self-determination and informed decision making. If you want to work with me, go to sexedforyou.com/free consult. I would love to chat with you. Have a great rest of your day. Like, subscribe, share. Mwah.